some rafters today and keep working on this lean-to. When it comes to making rafters, you can do it the hard way or you can do it the easy way. Today, we're gonna do it the easy way. In fact, it's so easy, it's almost cheating. I'm not even gonna use a calculator. So how the heck am I gonna get this right? Well, I'll show you. I think I mentioned last episode that I'm gonna be using 2x6s for the rafters. I decided because they're only 2x6s and there's always a chance that there's gonna be snow up here, and being on the north side of this building, snow could accumulate up here. So because of that, I'm gonna put these rafters not at 24 inches on center and not even at 16 inches on center. What the heck am I thinking? You'll see. So my goal is to have this framing finished up today because tomorrow the dirt guy's coming. We're gonna dig out that foundation tomorrow. So I got a lot of work to do today, so let's get going. So these 2x6s are 8 feet long. The first thing we're gonna do is try to mimic the pitch of the roof that's on the barn right now. The lower level of this barn is a 412. The top level is a 512. We're gonna do a 412 pitch on this lean-to. So the first thing I'm gonna do is cut that top angle at a 412 pitch. So this line right here represents the common rafters. This is the one I'm after, 412. My pivot point, rotate until that 4 line matches up with the edge of the board. That's my 412 pitch right there. So right now I'm not going to worry about the tail or the heel cut or the bird's mouth cut or anything fancy like that. This is just to establish how high my ledger is going to be, because attaching that ledger board to the barn will be the first thing we accomplish. So now I'm just going to take this top cut, this angle, and put flush against the wall. And wherever it sits flat on the wall and the other end hangs on this beam is roughly where that ledger board needs to go. So let's just check it out, see if we look close here. I think that's what we want. How does that look? So I'm going to mark the top of this right now. So I have to remember, once I cut my bird's mouth on the tail of this, then the whole thing is going to drop about 2 inches. So I have to take that into consideration. I'm going to tack a nail in here just so I can get down and see what it looks like. Okay, don't breathe. I like it. Okay, we're going with that. So I want the rafter tails on the lean-to mimic the rafter tails on the barn. And these rafter tails are basically 2x4s once they hit the plate and leave the building. That 2x6, I know, traditionally 2x6s are 5.5 inches wide. Everything is getting smaller and shorter nowadays. What the heck? So that is actually 5 3/8 inches wide. That's it. So once I leave only a 2x4, which is 3.5 inches, that leaves me 1 7/8 inches that I have to lower that board. Then everything will sit in that cut. So that means I got to lower that board up on top 1 7/8 also. So I'll take that mark that I drew, lower it 1 7/8 inches, and that will be the top of my ledger board. Okay, I just marked a plumb line right above this window. That was exactly in the middle of this structure. If you remember the very first episode, I squared this up to the building by establishing this middle line right here. So now I'm going to bring that top of the ledger board line all the way over to that center line. Now I'm going to sink a nail at the center line and then measure over 7.5 feet both directions. Okay, so there is the end of that ledger board, and that should match up with the end of my beam. It should all be square, but I'll double check before I put the rafters up. Now I need to cut out those battens to make room for that ledger board. The problem is I don't know exactly how much above the ledger board I'll need, because I have flashing, I have roofing, I have a couple other things that I'll get to later, but I can establish the line underneath the ledger board. My ledger board is going to be a 2x8, which is actually 7 1/16 of an inch wide. Go figure. So now I'm going to measure down from that top line about a 7 1/8, just to make sure I have room. And then I'll cut all those battens off at that line. And then what I think I'll try to do is just take off the rest of that batten from there on up, because it's not that tall. And that way I can just cut them after the fact and refit them exactly where they need to go. I think that's the easiest thing to do. So let's mark down one end, mark down on the other, snap a line, and cut those battens off. I don't have a ledger board that's 15 feet long. So this one here is 2 inches shy of 7 feet. So I need to cut this one 2 inches longer than 7 feet. Excuse me, 2 inches longer than 8 feet. That'll give us the 15 feet. This one is kind of wonky. I don't know if you can tell that. It's all twisted up. But I think I'll be able to flatten this out against the building. Okay, I just finished up marking the ledger board. I laid it out for my rafters. Not 24 inches on center, not 16, but 20 inches on center. Why 20 inches on center? Because it's a little bit beefier than 24, and 16 is probably unnecessary. So I just chose 20. It's a nice even number. It goes into 15 feet real nicely. 15 feet is 180 inches. Divided by 20, of course, that's 9 rafters plus the end is 10. So that's easy to figure. So I started on the right side, on the west side, marked my 20, and put my X on the far side of that mark. So I'll just have to remember that when I'm marking my beam as well. In case you were wondering, there is a horizontal 2x6 running almost exactly behind this 2x8 right here. It's only missing about the bottom 2 inches, and that'll be fine. So for now, I'm just holding this up here with 3-inch screws. I'll go back after the fact once I get everything lined up and sink in some 5-inch screws. So this is my rafter tail. Right now I'm just going to mark the top of it, that 3.5 inches. That's what I want remaining. Once I pass this top plate. So I have my mark. This will be obvious in a second. So this is where the easy or lazy part comes in. I'm just going to hold the top of the rafter up on the ledger board, and I'm going to hold the bottom of this rafter on the outside of this beam, right at the line that I just drew, my 3.5 inch line. So that sits right on the top outside edge of the beam. And then I'm just going to trace the beam. And that's it. It's just that easy. No calculator, no tables, no internet searches, no watching 7 hours of YouTube videos to figure out how to cut a rafter. It's just this easy. It's critical, if you want to get this part right, that this post is exactly plumb. Okay, right there. So that's what I need to cut out. Look at that. I'd say perfect, but that just sounds arrogant. Okay, it's almost perfect. Let's cut 9 more. So I made all my marks on this side of the board, but because this blade is flexible, and that can get kind of wonky by the time you get to the other side of the board, I'm just gonna flip this over. That way when I trace it, this line will be on the next board. This is what I want right here. I also wanna make sure I put the crowns up on these boards. And these are not measured to length. I will cut those after I get them up. Okay, the rafters are all cut. On the top end of these rafters, I'm gonna put this rafter hanger, joist hanger, whatever you wanna call it. It's adjustable, it bends. I'll put 8 of these on, the middle 8, and the 2 on the ends are not gonna get one of these. I'll just toe screw those in. So let's go ahead and put these on quickly, and then we'll get these up on the wall. let's hang some rafters. I'm going to use these 3-inch 10D galvanized nails, and I'm going to put 4 of them in each bracket, and I'm sure that'll be just fine. Oh, that ledger board is not a typical installation. If you were to put a deck on your house or something like this onto your house, what you would want to do is flash that very top of the roof so that the flashing went underneath the siding and then over your finished roofing. Well, I'm not going to do that with this, because this is the finished siding, and it's also the sheathing, and it's also, in essence, shear walls for the whole building. So what I'm not going to do is put a slit that's 15 feet long and cut this plywood. I'm not going to do it. I'll get to the flashing on the roofing episode, and we'll get to that eventually. But for now, let's just put these rafters up there. I'm going to get this general roof framing finished up in this episode. So I'm going to do the second last one on each end, and then one in the middle, and then I'll fasten these to the beam. Okay, I have these rafters secure. The posts are plumb. Everything is looking good. So let's go ahead and finish up these rafters. Then we'll secure the tails, cut them off, put a fascia board on, and then we'll be good to go. I don't know if you can tell or not, but it's breezy out there. Hopefully you can hear me talk. And if not, maybe that's a good thing. Okay, let's cut those rafter tails. My steel, the roofing steel, is 8 feet long exactly. So if I subtract 1.5 inches for overhang, and then subtract 1/2 inch for fascia trim, and then subtract another 1.5 inches for the 2x4 fascia itself, that leaves me with 7 feet, 8.5 inches. So that is how long we want those rafter tails from the building. Check it out. Our rafters are up. Is it perfect? It is perfectly fine for a lean-to on the back of a barn in the middle of nowhere. Some of you may be thinking, 20 inches on center, isn't that going to screw up your sheathing? Well, yeah, it would. So you'll just have to come back and watch me finish this. I'm not sure it's going to be next week, but watch me finish this and you'll see exactly how everything's going to turn out. In the meantime, take care of yourself. Do good, be good, and I'll see you soon.